I still remember the taste of that morning coffee. Bitter, lukewarm, and strangely metallic. Maybe it was just the nerves. After all, this was supposed to be my day. The day I would finally step into the role I'd been working toward for years. The glass towers of Crestview Consulting shimmered in the skyline, reflecting the golden sunrise, and I thought to myself, this is it. The culmination of every sleepless night, every sacrificed weekend, every moment I kept going while others quit. I had done everything right. Every box was ticked, every metric surpassed, every client charmed, and more importantly, every whisper in the corridors had pointed to me. Alex will get it. Alex deserves it. But when I entered the boardroom, confidence stitched into my smile, my boss cleared his throat and announced with a voice as smooth as polished marble, the new head of strategy will be Claire Whitmore. The name echoed in my ears like the crack of thunder. Claire, my colleague, my so-called friend, the woman who had sat across from me for 3 years, asking me for advice on client pitches, copying my note-taking system, shadowing me whenever I stayed late. She had been the one to pat my back, saying, "You've got this promotion in the bag, Alex." And yet here she was, her lipstick brighter, her heels sharper, her smile dripping with triumph as the room filled with applause. My hands clapped mechanically, but my heart had stopped. I wanted to scream. I wanted to demand answers. But instead, I sat there, silent, my throat tight, my pride bleeding, because I knew she had stolen my work, my research files, my late-night project notes. She had used the confidential strategy deck I'd been preparing for months, dressing it up as her own masterpiece. And the partners, they had eaten it up. Claire glanced at me just once, her smirk subtle but razor-sharp, as if whispering, "I won. You lost." That night, I sat in my apartment surrounded by crumpled papers and empty wine bottles, replaying every moment, every word she had ever said. The betrayal carved itself deeper with each thought. It wasn't just about the job. It was about trust, about how she had smiled at me while twisting the knife. But betrayal is a strange thing. It doesn't just break you. Sometimes it shapes you. And as I sat there in the dark, one thought began to rise above the storm inside me. If she could steal my dream job, then I could steal something she valued even more. Not her money. Not her office, her reputation. I didn't move recklessly. Revenge isn't about fury. It's about precision. Claire had blindsided me, but I wouldn't give her the same satisfaction. If I was going to destroy her, I'd do it slowly, methodically, the way a snake coils before striking, so I started watching. Claire had always loved the spotlight, and now as head of strategy she basked in it like a queen. Her office was twice the size of mine, glass walls gleaming, fresh orchids on her desk every Monday. She walked through the halls with her designer dresses and commanding stride, every intern scrambling to impress her. But the higher the pedestal, the harder the fall. I studied her carefully. Every presentation she gave, every late-night call, every careless sip of champagne at corporate events. And slowly, I began to notice the cracks. The first one came at a Monday meeting. She presented a quarterly growth model that looked suspiciously familiar. Too familiar. It was based on a framework I had drafted months before, buried in an old folder she should never have had access to. Another time during a client dinner, she bragged about her innovative pitch deck, the exact one I had outlined, down to the metaphors. My jaw clenched as she sipped her wine, laughing in that rehearsed way of hers. She wasn't creative. She wasn't innovative. She was a parasite, feeding on the ideas of others. But here's the thing about parasites. They always leave traces. So I started collecting. Quietly, invisibly. I kept a private drive filled with dated files, emails, and notes. Evidence of every idea she had lifted from me and even from others. I didn't confront her. Not yet, instead I played along. Smiled when she bragged, nodded when she boasted. I even pretended to seek her advice, feeding her half-baked ideas to see if she would snatch them up and parade them as her own. And she did, every single time. Meanwhile, I built alliances. Not loudly, but in whispers. A coffee with Mark from finance, a chance hallway chat with Sarah from HR, casual drinks with interns. I asked questions, listened more than I spoke. and let them tell me what they really thought of Claire. And it was always the same. She's charming, but cold. Talented, but something feels off. They couldn't put their finger on it, but I could. I was crafting the story of her downfall, piece by piece. And then, fate handed me the first weapon. One late evening, as I packed my bag, I noticed Claire had left her office door ajar. Papers scattered across her desk, her laptop still glowing, and there it was, an email draft. She had copied entire paragraphs from a competitor's white paper, planning to pass it off as her team's research in tomorrow's presentation. Plagiarism. I felt a rush of adrenaline. I snapped a photo of the screen before slipping out, my heart pounding. This wasn't just evidence. This was leverage. As I lay in bed that night, staring at the ceiling, I realized something. Claire wasn't just careless. She was arrogant. She thought she was untouchable. And arrogance, when exposed, doesn't just tarnish reputations. It destroys them. Tomorrow, I would begin testing just how fragile hers really was. The next morning, the office buzzed with its usual Monday energy, heels clicking against marble floors, phones ringing with impatient clients, the smell of burnt coffee lingering in the air. Claire stood at the head of the glass conference room, commanding attention like she always did, her tone confident, her slides polished, but I wasn't listening to her. I was watching the partners. They nodded, smiled, occasionally whispered among themselves. They adored her. To them, she was the star, but they didn't know what I knew. I slipped into the back row, unnoticed, and opened my laptop. The photo of her plagiarized email draft glared at me like a glowing ember. I could have sent it to the partners right then. I could have ended her career with a single click, but no, that would be too easy, too merciful. Instead, I forwarded it anonymously to one of our sharpest analysts, Emma, the kind of woman who lived for spotting irregularities in reports. I knew she'd dissect Claire's presentation the way a surgeon dissects tissue. Sure enough, an hour later, I overheard Emma whispering to a colleague, "Wait a second. This section looks copied. I swear I've read this before." The doubt had been planted. That was the beauty of revenge. You don't attack directly. You let suspicion grow like rot in wood until the entire structure collapses. By the end of the week, murmurs began to spread. Nothing big, nothing confrontational, just whispers. Is Claire cutting corners? Didn't that sound familiar? She's good, but is she really that original? I watched her closely. For the first time, her flawless composure cracked. She snapped at an intern during a presentation rehearsal. She double-checked her notes more often. She started keeping her office door locked. Good. Let her feel the walls closing in. Meanwhile, I became the picture of innocence. Smiling, cooperative, helpful. I offered her coffee before meetings, congratulated her on brilliant ideas, even laughed at her dry jokes. And every time she glanced at me with suspicion, because deep down, she must have sensed I wasn't as harmless as I looked, I gave her nothing but warmth. She had stolen my job. But now I was stealing her peace of mind, and this was only the beginning, because the next phase wasn't about whispers. It was about proof, real proof, that would stain her reputation permanently. And as fate would have it, Claire was about to hand me exactly what I needed. It happened at the annual Crestview Gala, a night of champagne, glittering gowns, and false smiles. The company rented out an entire ballroom, chandeliers dripping light onto polished marble floors, the air thick with money and ambition. Claire arrived late, as usual, making an entrance in a backless emerald dress that turned heads. She knew how to play the part. The partners flocked to her, glasses raised, voices full of praise. But the thing about galas, people drink, and when people drink, they talk. I mingled quietly, drifting from group to group, listening more than I spoke. I caught fragments of conversations, bonuses, mergers, rumors about rival firms, and then, near the bar, I found my golden opportunity. Claire's personal assistant, Lily, was nursing her second glass of rosé, her shoulders slouched. Unlike Claire, Lily wasn't wearing a designer dress, just a simple black gown, shoes that had seen better days. She looked tired, overworked, underappreciated. I slid next to her, casual, like fate had just placed us side by side. Long night? I asked. She sighed. Long year, I smiled sympathetically. Claire keeping you busy? Lily let out a bitter laugh. Busy is an understatement. I practically do her job for her. Bingo. I leaned in slightly, lowering my voice. Really? You mean all those brilliant presentations she gives? She doesn't write half of them, Lily cut in, her voice sharper now, fueled by alcohol and pent-up frustration. I draft the outlines, she takes the credit. Sometimes she even makes me rewrite slides with notes she borrows from other firms. She acts like she's a genius, but she's just a thief. Her words lit a fire in me. So it wasn't just me she stole from. She had been feeding on everyone around her. Does anyone else know this? I asked softly. Lily shook her head. No one listens. They see her charm, her confidence. They don't see the truth. And if I speak up, she'll bury me. I placed my hand gently on the bar, close to hers. What if she buries herself? Lily blinked, confused, but I didn't explain. Not yet. Timing was everything. Instead, I let her vent about the late nights, the stolen ideas, the way Claire mocked her behind her back. Every word she gave me was ammunition, and I stored it carefully in my mind. By the time the gala ended, Claire was tipsy, her laughter loud and careless. She had no idea that her trusted assistant had just given me the keys to her downfall. As I watched her leave, swaying slightly in her designer heels, I felt a dark thrill. Evidence was one thing. But testimony, first-hand accounts, was something far more powerful, and now I had both. Still, I couldn't rush. Not yet, no, I had to let her dig her own grave deeper, and something told me. She was about to make the mistake of her life. Perfect. Time to tighten the noose. Here are sections 5 and 6, 2,000 words of She Stole My Dream Job. So I stole her reputation. The Monday after the gala, Claire strutted into the office like royalty returning from a parade. Her emerald dress had been replaced with a crisp white blazer, her hair perfectly polished, her eyes sharp as ever. She had no idea her kingdom was already burning beneath her feet. I didn't go after her directly. Instead, I went for the cracks she didn't even notice. Step 1. Lily. I invited her out for coffee, under the guise of casual friendship. She hesitated at first, nervous, cautious. But as soon as we sat down in the quiet corner of the cafe, her guard slipped. She poured out stories of late-night calls, impossible deadlines, the way Claire would dump entire projects on her and then claim the credit in meetings. She's nothing without me, Lily said bitterly, stirring her cappuccino too hard, foam spilling over the rim. But no one believes that. They see her as brilliant, unstoppable. If I ever spoke up, she'd just twist it and make me look incompetent. I leaned forward. What if I could protect you? What if there was a way to show the truth without putting it all on your shoulders? Her eyes flickered with a mix of fear and hope. What do you mean? I smiled faintly. Just keep doing your job, but from now on, keep every draft you write, every email she sends, every correction she makes. Don't delete anything. Trust me, it'll be worth it. She hesitated, but finally nodded. All right, but why are you helping me? I let out a dry laugh. Let's just say Claire and I have unfinished business. Step 2, the partners. Instead of attacking Claire head-on, I planted seeds of doubt in subtle ways. A casual comment during a meeting. Interesting how similar this model is to something our competitors published last quarter. A raised eyebrow when Claire claimed a bold new strategy. A light chuckle when someone praised her originality. Each remark was harmless on its own, but together they painted a picture. A picture that made people question whether Claire was really the genius they thought she was. And then came step 3. Opportunity. Crestview Consulting was preparing a massive pitch for a billion-dollar client, Grayson Industries. It was the kind of deal that could define a career. Naturally, Claire was leading the project. Naturally, she was already bragging about the innovative framework she was developing. But I knew Claire, and I knew she would cut corners. So I waited. And one late evening, while walking past her office, I caught her screen glowing with yet another borrowed document, this time lifted straight from an international consulting report. She wasn't even subtle about it anymore. I felt my pulse quicken as I took out my phone and snapped another photo. This wasn't just plagiarism. This was corporate theft. The perfect trap was nearly ready. Now all I needed was the perfect moment to spring it. The days leading up to the Grayson Industries pitch were chaos. The entire office buzzed with tension, interns running like ants, analysts barely sleeping. Claire, of course, thrived in the chaos, or at least she pretended to. But I saw the cracks forming. She barked orders at her team, snapped at Lily for typos that weren't there, slammed doors when things didn't go her way. She was unraveling, and the pressure of leading the biggest pitch of her career only made it worse. Meanwhile, I played the part of the calm, steady soldier, offering solutions, supporting the team, even volunteering for late-night research. The partners noticed. Their approving nods, their small smiles. They were subtle, but I caught them, and Claire caught them too. One evening, she cornered me in the hallway, her heels clicking like gunshots on the polished floor. "You've been very involved lately," she said, her smile tight, her voice dripping with suspicion. "Just doing my part," I replied evenly. Her eyes narrowed. "Don't think I don't notice, Alex. You may have lost the promotion, but don't make the mistake of thinking you can outshine me now." I tilted my head, letting a faint smirk cross my lips. "Why would I ever want to outshine you, Claire? You're already perfect, aren't you?" Her jaw tightened. She didn't like that answer. Good. By the time the day of the Grayson pitch arrived, Claire was a bundle of nerves wrapped in expensive silk. She stood at the front of the boardroom, projecting her usual confidence, but her hands trembled ever so slightly as she clicked through the slides, and that's when it happened. One of the Grayson executives frowned, whispering to his colleague. He had recognized something. One of Claire's original frameworks was lifted word for word from a global report his company had already purchased. I saw the flicker of doubt spread across the room. The partners shifted uncomfortably. Claire stumbled over her words, trying to cover, her flawless mask slipping. And I sat there, silent, watching the empire she stole from me begin to crack. But this wasn't the finale.
"No, this was just the overture, because after the meeting..."
As Claire stormed into her office, slamming the door behind her, Lily texted me 2 words that made my pulse quicken. "I'm ready." When Lily texted me, "I'm ready," I knew the tides had officially turned. She wasn't just a frustrated assistant anymore. She was willing to become an accomplice. We met that evening at a small diner far from the city center. The kind of place where no one cared who you were or what you were plotting. The neon lights flickered above us as Lily slid into the booth, clutching a folder so tightly her knuckles were white. "This is everything," she whispered, sliding the folder across the table. I opened it. My heart raced as I flipped through the pages. Email threads where Claire demanded Lily restructure stolen decks, drafts with tracked changes that clearly showed Lily's work being twisted into Claire's originals, screenshots of files copied from competitor sites. It was a goldmine. Lily's voice trembled. "If this gets out, she'll know it came from me. She'll destroy me." I leaned forward, my voice calm but sharp. "No. When this comes out, it'll look like she destroyed herself. You'll be untouchable." Her eyes searched mine, filled with equal parts fear and hope. "And you? What do you want from all this?" I smirked, leaning back in the booth. "Me? I just want justice." But we both knew it was more than that. I wanted retribution. I wanted Claire to feel what I felt when she ripped my dream job from my hands. The plan was delicate. If I dropped the evidence too soon, it would look like personal revenge. If I waited too long, Claire might bury the traces. Timing was everything. So we decided on a 3-step strategy. Leaks, anonymous drops of small, incriminating details to build suspicion, exposure, undeniable proof circulated at the highest level, collapse, public humiliation that would end her reign for good. It wasn't just a plan. It was a countdown, and Claire had no idea the clock was already ticking. The first leak was subtle, a misplaced email, forwarded anonymously to the compliance team, showing Claire's plagiarized notes for the Grayson pitch. Nothing explosive, just enough to make them raise their eyebrows and start an internal check. The second leak came 2 days later. a slide draft she'd stolen from another consulting firm, slipped quietly into the inbox of a senior partner who prided himself on integrity above all. And the third, a casual, off-the-record comment whispered at lunch to one of the gossip-loving associates. Isn't it strange how Claire's ideas always sound familiar? The effect was immediate. Claire walked through the halls with her usual confidence, but I could see the change in people's eyes. The respect was tinged with suspicion now. The admiration came with whispers. She felt it too. I could tell by the way her smile grew tighter, the way her heels clicked sharper, the way she kept glancing over her shoulder as though she sensed invisible eyes following her. And then came the moment I'd been waiting for. One morning, the partners called a private meeting. Only senior staff were invited, but word spread quickly that the topic was concerns over project integrity. Claire didn't know it yet, but she was walking into a trap of her own making. She stormed into the meeting with her head high, her usual armor of arrogance, and delivered her defense with flawless charm, but the cracks were undeniable. The partners grilled her with questions she couldn't answer. She blamed her team. She deflected. She lied. And I sat there, silent, watching her scramble, watching her mask peel away piece by piece. When the meeting finally adjourned, she brushed past me in the hallway, her eyes burning like wildfire. She didn't say a word, but her glare screamed everything. I know you're behind this. For the first time, I didn't hide my smirk, because the leaks had done their job. Suspicion was no longer just a whisper. It was a storm, and the next phase, exposure, would turn that storm into a hurricane. The stage was set. Crestview Consulting's quarterly review was more than just a meeting. It was a performance. Every partner, executive, and department head packed into the glass-walled auditorium, waiting to hear the highlights of the firm's success. It was Claire's moment to shine, her chance to flaunt her brilliance in front of the entire company. But this time, the script wouldn't go her way. Lily and I had worked late into the night, assembling a pristine, irrefutable packet of evidence. Every stolen slide, every email thread, every tracked change. A timeline so clear it didn't just accuse Claire, it convicted her. And just as Claire stepped on stage, glowing under the spotlights, that packet was quietly distributed to every partner's inbox. I watched from the audience, heart pounding as Claire launched into her presentation. She was radiant, commanding, every gesture rehearsed. But one by one, the partners' phones buzzed. One by one, brows furrowed. One by one, whispers spread, Claire noticed. Of course she did. Her smile faltered for half a second before she forced it back. But the room's energy had shifted. She wasn't the star anymore. She was the suspect. Halfway through her speech, one of the senior partners, Mr. Caldwell, a man who rarely spoke unless it mattered, stood up. His voice sliced through the silence. Claire, can you explain why these documents show that much of your so-called original work was directly lifted from competitors and even your own staff? The room went dead silent. Claire froze. Her eyes darted around, searching for an ally, a lifeline, but there was none. Everyone had seen the evidence. Everyone had the proof in their inbox. I don't know what you're talking about, she stammered, her polished mask crumbling. This is a mistake. Someone's trying to frame me. But Caldwell cut her off, his voice colder now. The timestamps, the drafts, the emails. They don't lie. Do you deny that these are your communications? Your files? Her face drained of color. Yes, but it's not what it looks like. The room erupted. Questions flew from every corner. Words like dishonesty, plagiarism, integrity breach filled the air. Claire tried to defend herself, but the harder she fought, the deeper she sank. And I sat there, calm, silent, savoring every second. This wasn't just revenge. This was justice. By the time the meeting adjourned, Claire was pale, trembling, her career hanging by a thread. The partners announced a full investigation. She wasn't fired yet, but the writing was on the wall. She had walked in as the firm's shining star. She walked out as a fraud, and the best part? No one knew I had lit the fire. Not yet. The fallout was brutal. In the days that followed, Claire became a ghost of her former self. The once confident woman who strutted through the office like royalty now walked with her head down, avoiding eye contact. The orchids on her desk wilted, untouched. Her glass office, once a stage for her triumphs, had become a cage of whispers and stares. Emails went unanswered. Meetings were postponed. Clients requested to speak with someone else. The empire she built on stolen ideas was crumbling in real time. And then, the investigation report dropped. It was scathing. Every piece of evidence, thanks to Lily, was laid out in black and white. Plagiarism, misrepresentation, abuse of authority. The board didn't just recommend termination. They recommended a formal blacklisting in the consulting community. Claire's career wasn't just damaged. It was obliterated. I'll never forget the moment she was escorted out of the building. Her eyes were red, her hair disheveled, her hands clutching a single box of belongings. The same people who once scrambled to impress her now turned their backs. She stopped for just a second in front of me, her gaze locking with mine. "You," she whispered, her voice hoarse. "It was you." I leaned in slightly, lowering my voice so only she could hear. "You stole my dream job, Claire." All I did was take it back, her face twisted with fury, grief, and disbelief. But there was nothing she could do. The guards led her out and the doors closed behind her. Silence fell in the office. And then, slowly, eyes turned to me. I wasn't the villain. I wasn't the backstabber. I was the steady, reliable Alex, who had been there all along, the one who stepped up when things fell apart. Within weeks, I was offered Claire's old position, head of strategy. The job that was supposed to be mine from the start. But the title didn't matter anymore. What mattered was the lesson. Revenge isn't loud. It isn't messy. It's quiet, precise, inevitable. And as I stood in Claire's old office, the city skyline glowing before me, I smiled. Not because I had won, but because she had finally lost. Her reputation, once untouchable, was now ashes, and I was the one who lit the match.